Sup everyone, this is very interesting. And trust me when I say it is interesting, at least to me it is. Scaramouche's banner right now along with Kokomi's rerun is on track to being the worst banner in history, like ever, period, bar none. Now, the banner hasn't ended yet and there's still 13 days left, so a lot of people will be like, well, there's no way, right? The Eula Klee banner is atrocious. There's no freaking way that Eula and Klee banner is going to be better than the Scaramouche and Kokomi banner. Now, yes, when I say that, maybe the stats are a little skewed because right now, if you've watched my previous video, you would know that Scaramouche is under a ton of fire, like from the CN side, and stat we track, or at least the stat that is shown to us, is tracked via CN iOS. So that's a huge chunk of the market right there, and it's not a stretch to say that there's a huge issue with the Scaramouche or the Wanderer in CN. If you watch my previous video, again, you would know exactly what that is, so I'm not going to reiterate that. And due to that backlash from the CN community and the huge hate wave, the Scaramouche banner doing poorly is to a certain degree to be expected. A lot of the times, I don't know about you guys, right? Like pulling characters, investing in characters, you always feel good about sharing them with other people, your friends, or just strangers online. Be like, hey, look at my Scaramouche, look at my Kokomi, look at my Zhongli, look at my Hu Tao, look at my Yoimiya, look at my Ayaka, look at my Raiden Shogun, look at my XYZ, anybody. Look at my any character. Feels good to share the hard work you've put into developing a character, right? I don't know. Some people don't care about it. You're like, oh, I keep to myself. I will never share. Like, but there's a lot of people that I know, they would love to share like a C6 Ito, for example, with other people, being like, look at this. I spent over a year saving up to get a C6 Ito. We're buying Welcome Moons, strictly Welcome Moons, no gem tops ups and stuff. It's a lot of time and effort to actually get a character to a certain level. So it's unfair to say, in my opinion, that people disregard others' opinions towards a certain character when they want to decide who to invest into. And it's just unfortunate that Scaramouche Wanderer in CN is hugely frowned upon right now, at least by a certain portion of the community. And if you come out and say that you've invested into Wanderer heavily, you will be laughed at, harassed, bullied, and sometimes even targeted and have your info leaked. Yeah, it's pretty damn crazy. So it is safe to assume that due to this backlash, a lot of people have decided not to pull on this banner. And also, Kokomi herself is not going to be able to carry this to any degree of high profit or record-shattering margins. So if you guys don't believe me, let's take a look at your favorite stat line right here. Okay, this is basically a chart of how every single banner that we have gotten performs day by day. So if we start at day 0, if you guys see here, day 0, oh, you guys can't see the money. Oh, let me remove that. There you go. So if we just let this play, it'll go from day 1 to day 2 to 3, and then you can see how the money just grows. So right out from the get-go, Nahida and Yoimiya's banner takes the lead from the get-go. So it just seems like a lot of people rushes in to summon, and right from the beginning we got Kokomi and this current banner right now. So it's all fair and square right now. You guys cannot argue at a day 0 that it wasn't equal footing. Everything was equal footing, right? It's only once we pass like day 8, this banner stops growing because this banner has only had 8 days. And you guys might argue that, but I'll show you guys how important the first few days of the banner's performance is, because you'll quickly see that it doesn't take much for the banner to kind of show its potential. As we fast forward to something like maybe 10 days in, you'll see already Hu Tao and Yelan's rerun banner, it's already taking first place. Currently, Kokomi and Wanderer is sitting comfortably as a bottom 3. And of course, it's not going to grow anymore from here on out because we're not that deep into the banner yet. So as we continue going, you'll see the number doesn't change, but for other banners, it slightly shifts around, and you'll see where things ends up nesting. And here is the problem. Most of the banner sales actually do happen in the first like half of the banner. If you think about it, a lot of people are waiting on the sidelines for their characters reruns. So it's safe to say that the second the banner drops, people are just going to go in and dump everything they have to try to secure their units. there's very little people that I know of, especially ones who are going to be pulling on a Kokomi and Wanderer banner that's going to wait until the last day of the banner to drop everything. So the later the banner goes, actually there's going to be less growth. What I'm really saying is that this banner here already has seen a huge chunk of its potential revenue straight out of the gate, right? People who wanted Scaramouche, people who wanted Kokomi, people who needed to bolster these characters both in the weapon departments, or they're going to be pulling for Faruzan, the support character, to C6, they've already gone and done what they needed to do, meaning that there's very little room for this banner to grow any further. Now, is that to say this banner is not going to outperform Eula and Cleat? No, absolutely not. And I think there's a good chance that they're going to outperform Eula and Cleat, but I don't think it's going to be by much. Maybe it's going to nest themselves in the bottom 3, bottom 4 if it's lucky, but truly it is crazy to see how poorly the Wanderer rerun banner is performing. And don't tell me that it's because nobody likes the Wanderer or this character is not popular. Its initial banner is one of the better performing banners out there. So if we adjust the banner day to 36, you'll see that the Wanderer and Ito banner sits very high up. So it's to say Wanderer is a very popular and beloved character back in its original release. So what gives? What happened? Is it because like, oh, Wanderer C0 is amazing, you don't need his weapons, you don't need anything else to support him, he's great at C0, free to play, so nobody ever that doesn't make sense either. There's plenty of other free to play friendly characters that actually on their rerun does better. For example, Kazuha, low investment, C0, free to play weapon. Look at his rerun. In fact, I should argue the opposite, because as newer players come in, they will want to gain access to a cheap and easy to build character. So if you're going to argue Wanderer C0 free to play is amazing, then his rerun should be doing spectacular, but it's not. And what hurts even more is that Faruzan is a key component to making Wanderer feel amazing to play. Same with Zhao, and the fact that Faruzan is on this rerun as well, so people who only got her to C2, C3 can slowly build their way up to maybe C4, C5, and if you're lucky, maybe even C6 and snag up another Wanderer constellation along the way. What's not to like about that? So what the hell is happening? I truly believe that the hatred towards Wanderer, this character in CN, has hugely affected its banner sales. How is that important? Now this is where we get into the juice, because I've said for the longest time, don't try to convince Hoyoverse with your words, with your reviews, with your feedback, with your harassment, right? With your memes. It doesn't work. They don't speak that. Corporates don't speak normal tongue. They speak money. If you want to send a message to Hoyoverse, use your wallet to do it. They speak money. They speak spreadsheets. They speak balance sheets. Right now, what is hurting Hoyoverse the most is probably this right here. This banner's performance is hurting Hoyoverse, at least in their anticipation. I don't think Hoyoverse anticipated the Kokomi Wanderer banner to do as bad as the Eula Klee banner. Don't get me wrong, they were totally okay on sacking 3.8's revenue because they anticipate that 4.0, 4.1, 4.2, they might tune characters around to make sure people are going to drop some money to make up for the terrible banner sale record for 3.8. But seeing Kokomi and Wanderer's banner barely surviving like day 9 is just insane to think about when it comes to Hoyoverse HQ. How serious are they going to be taking this stand from the community? Now remember, back in the day when Zhongli first came out, a lot of people pulled for him and a lot of people ended up having problems with it. There was huge backlash and it was global. Everybody seemed to have issues with this character, and of course with the strong pressure from CN, Hoyoverse ultimately decided to rework the character. I think that's the only time they've ever done something like that. They've never done it since, and I don't think they ever will. And that was a banner that performed relatively well, even by today's standards, right? The game was in its glory days, and I made videos in the past talking about why they actually went about and changed Zhongli. It wasn't really to please the audience, but it was rather to demonstrate to the players at the time that they're a development team or they're a company that's willing to listen to its player base. Now, although that was just to paint the illusion of that, because they have never done that ever since. But the act of reworking Zhongli was able to help them preserve the good image of both the company as well as the game to give Genshin a longer shelf life. And that, in my opinion, was a really good business decision to do that, not just to please the player, not so we got a super good character for the long run, but also to sustain the game's popularity during the peak of its existence. But moving back to Kokomi Wanderer, now we can speculate. How is Hoyoverse going to respond to this? I think that if Hoyoverse wants to find middle ground between the haters as well as the people who love Scaramouche, of course you're not going to delete Scaramouche, but I do anticipate to see Scaramouche or Wanderer to appear less and less in the story. I do think that maybe, just like Eula, they're going to delay his rerun for quite a while. Now, it pains me to say this because all the Wanderer fans and stuff, they never did anything wrong. And since CN and EN share the same banners, I don't think it's really fair if Hoyoverse makes this decision. Why should the masses suffer because of a few vocal minorities online hating, harassing, bullying? Why do we not go to the root of the problem? Well, that's because there is no way to get to the root of the problem. What are you going to do? Find these people, arrest these people, find out their accounts, ban their accounts? Like, what are you doing, right? Of course, you guys would say, do it. That's what you should do. But then that's also taking us down a very dangerous path, because what if Hoyoverse then starts censoring more things online? Now you get banned for harassing people about their mains. What if in the future you get banned for bad mouthing a certain character or their lore? This, like, where do you draw the line? How do you calibrate this type of punishment? You cannot. So what ends up happening is Hoyoverse can only ignore these people, like they've done so for the past 8 months. But they can ignore words and harassment towards their player base, but can they continuously ignore poor banner sales? Because this is directly hurting Hoyoverse and their ability to overturn revenue, to take this money, reinvest it into other projects and do it. This is going to hurt not only Genshin Impact, this hurts other development projects that they have. Remember, Genshin is their big cash cow. If the cash cow is being denied, that's gonna really hurt Hoyoverse's bottom line. Realistically, as a company, what do you think they're gonna do? Delete Scaramouche? I don't think so. Doesn't make much sense. Still making the millions of dollars. It really doesn't make any sense to delete Scaramouche just to please a small minority. But what they can do is they could heavily alter future plans with Scaramouche. Okay, you guys hate Scaramouche. Right now, they might be scratching some future reappearances with the character. So we don't know if they're going to completely scratch them or have him appear much less in those story developments. Also, moving his rerun further back, maybe once every 16 months, 18 months, is going to basically deal with this issue, because if Scaramouche never appears, these people have nothing to really cry about. It's usually during his reruns or during heavy lore appearances where these people have big issues. Now, I think that alone is going to solve the problem of the haters, and eventually it's going to get to a point where they're just going to fizzle out and not talk about this more. Maybe it's going to take a year, 2, 3 years, but I'm pretty sure eventually this is just going to be a non-issue. The last thing Hoyoverse wants is having this Scaramouche problem bleed into Fontaine. If it bleeds into Fontaine, which right now I don't think Hoyoverse ever even anticipated Scaramouche was going to become this big of an issue to this banner. But if it bleeds into Fontaine, that is potentially going to kill the entire hype train, at least on CN, for one of Genshin's major turnaround patches. But what do you guys think? This hatred for Scaramouche, is it going to urge Hoyoverse to finally take action and do something about it? Or are they just going to cower behind their big corporate walls and make slight tuning adjustments to make sure the money keeps flowing? Love to hear what you guys have to say about this. We're going to be talking about this more in tomorrow's live stream. So until then, urge you to stay safe. Peace, bye bye.